Hi everyone. I'm Shane Prada. Okay. I'm the director here at the Baltimore Jewelry Center. Just going to give a quick intro before turning over to Noah. So Noah Kiehne grew up in Windsor, Connecticut, and earned a bachelor's degree in computer-aided jewelry design and lapidary craft from the School of Individualized Study at the Rochester Institute of Technology. In the summer of 2025, last year, he was awarded the Best in Show prize for the BJC's second annual graduate show. That award comes with a 1-month residency at the BJC. We were really excited to welcome Noah this March into our studio. Noah's always had a small rock collection from various museums and gift shops, but in 2020, he discovered the attainable mineral diversity of his home state. This began a collection of self-mined mineral specimens that grew in quantity and quality, becoming a focal point of his metalworking jewelry. As a jeweler and artisanal miner, I really love that, right? I hadn't heard it before, and I think it's cool. A young artisanal miner, which I think is extra important. Noah's work includes gemstones and mineral specimens that he spent hours searching for, safely extracting, gently cleaning, carefully cutting, and patiently polishing. Gemstones can represent all manner of things, but to Noah, they represent the journey it takes to find them. Conceptually, his work is a marriage of mechanical and natural sensibilities. He's guided by mechanism, fantasy, and superstition, and natural form. In his work, Noah explores ideas and aesthetics of religion and industry through hallmark forms and styles unique to those environments. It's been super fun to watch Noah at work the past month. He has an excellent knack for precision work, and he renders jewelry carefully and accurately. He builds his work with such dedication to detail and careful craftsmanship. His work often has a kinetic capacity, which is truly delightful to witness in the studio, and it's not something you see that often. And that all of that work comes out both in the fabrication and in the final form of his work. It's been really special to have Noah here. It's never long enough when we have residents.
No, it's not. Thank you for those kind words. Yeah. That was the TLDR. So if you don't have any more time, you can just leave now. No. Let's get going with the presentation. All right, so you kind of already know who I am. Shane just introduced me. Some other things about me: grew up in Windsor, Connecticut, went to public school. I was in Boy Scouts. I was on a robotics team. I was on a swim team. Maybe some of these things are starting to add up to where I am today. I attended RIT. Last summer, I was a studio assistant at Peters Valley. That was an amazing experience. I would recommend it to anybody in the craft, whether it be an assistant or a coordinator there. And I also helped an artist, Shane Hendren, at Penland. He was teaching a class in hand engraving, and that's one of my specialties. So they saw fit to have me work with him there. That was really nice. I also like skateboarding, video games, and taking pictures of plants and creatures. And that's an orchid. It is the rattlesnake plantain found at the scout camp that I work at in Connecticut. And a photograph taken by my friend Kai's girlfriend. You probably know the name of Brandon, but I'm blank. Sarah, yes, Sarah Thomas. Sarah Thomas took that picture. Amazing photographer.
Who built the?
Oh yeah. Oh, I built the ramp. I told her that earlier. Yeah, for like $15, and the rest of it was taken out of dumpsters in various locales around campus. So that was awesome. Jumping into things that I've made, this is like some of my first metalwork. I took a foundry class at RIT. There was some stuff earlier than that. When I was really young, I was playing around with copper wire, and that stuff still inspires me, but it's not like academic enough to put in the slideshow, I suppose. But first piece there is called Debris. I didn't bring in a good object, so I just grabbed some cardboard, which is my favorite construction material, and threw it together. Second piece, Oculite. And the third one is, I tried to make a sledgehammer, but cast iron isn't the best material for a sledgehammer, so it's kind of non-functional, but it was a good start. I soon discovered jewelry design by taking a studio class, long studio class elective on Friday. Made some simple things. You can start to see some of the hallmarks of my design emerge at this point, like especially rivets. I just love rivets. Started using them out of the get-go. I made a ring that was commemorative for that ramp that I created. And that was really fun. Some significant things that I made in 2023. This pendant for my grandmother Martha, who is hopefully watching, right? It's made from Freenite, which is a mineral that I can find just about like 15 minutes from my house. So a little bit more on that later. And the second piece is called Appease the Devourer. It was made for a specific assignment where we were charged with looking at the history of jewelry and metalsmith objects and drawing inspiration from that history. So I chose the Shang and Zhao Dynasty Chinese bronzes, and I've co-opted some of the stylistic choices, but replaced them with my own symbolism and meaning. That piece received some attention at Aeromont, which is really cool. And the stone on the top and the stone inside I found, and it's one of the first pieces that I include lapidary work in the things I'm doing. So 2024, start learning about casting. Did a big commission. I took a faceted gemstone that a friend of mine at the Rochester Lapidary Society cut and set it into a pendant for his daughter. That was a really cool opportunity. I definitely undercharged for the work, but still, it was just amazing to be able to work at that, like to do a commission and especially to use a gemstone that somebody put so much time into. I didn't break it. Awesome. The ring to the right of that uses a cabochon that I cut myself, one of the earlier ones. Failed experiments with enamel, but I had some successes later on along with that. Significant 2024 stuff. We have a gemstone I cut, faceted. The first one, I've only done 2 so far. It takes so long, and I only had so much access while I was at school because I had to drive like 30 minutes to the Rochester Lapidary Society to take part in that. It's still like really cool that opportunity was available to me. My time in college would have been profoundly different if it wasn't there. The piece on the left, I was calling Ancient Capsule, but I've decided now, in the context of the work that I made at the Baltimore Jewelry Center, to start calling it Reach Lock Capsule. And I'll speak a little bit more about that later. And then on the right, we have ritual device. These 2 were actually the ones in the Baltimore Jewelry Show that got me this residency. So very happy about that. That piece was sort of an assignment to create functional objects as a T-string, but I named it ritual device because it sort of has the form factor of like a sensor, something you would put incense in and swing around. So the ambiguity of its narrative is interesting. And then 2025 pre-grad, I did a little bit of forging just because that was something I was interested in as a project the other classes were working on. But then I swiftly moved into doing a lot of capstone work. And for my capstone, since I was coming from mechanical engineering, going into jewelry design, I wanted to, in the School of Individualized Study, I wanted to marry both of them in a way that made sense for what I was doing in the title of my degree. So I actually did like 3 capstone projects that semester. One of them was what you see at the bottom, which is called controlled carapaces. And that's a series of brooches made of aluminum, stainless steel, actually just aluminum and stainless steel. But the thing was, I learned how to use a Bridgeport, a 3-axis milling machine that had a little bit of conversational programming in it. So it was like part CNC, part manual machining. And it was a big collaboration between me and the machine to bring out the beautiful aspects of machining that I sought to achieve with this project. And then the second thing on here is a big chunky container called vault that I was trying to go for having a piece of jewelry and a container be related to each other. And I kind of got part of the way there. But I'm really fortunate that I got anywhere at all because I had to convince the schools, the Brinkman Lab, which is like a grad level industrial engineering lab with really fancy, expensive CNC machines to actually make the aluminum parts for me. And I learned how to use some other tools to make all the brass components. So after I graduated, I went to Peters Valley. There's a lot of time there, but I feel like I didn't make too much stuff. I think that's mainly because I was doing a lot of learning of new techniques and following along. I learned how to do enameling really well, and that was from Andy Lowry, who teaches here. He's amazing at teaching enamel. I recommend taking his classes. Those cloisonne pieces down at the bottom, I love, and I'm really interested in doing more stuff like that in the future. Don, I think you have to say, I guess. Never mind. Maybe me and my brother will purchase a kiln and he'll do some ceramics. The pieces on the top left I want to point out too, because those are some Christmas gifts to my brother and one of my friends. But they're special to me because I'm starting to experiment more with the form of the stones that I'm cutting. All of those sort of like yellowish cones, truncated cones on there, all prehnite that I found in the months before making this. And just, I don't know, I fell in love with that shape, and I'm working with what I can do with it. I'm actually wearing one right now that's like the first one of that kind. Also learned how to raise from fully dark, and you'll see some of that work displayed in the gallery right now with the new thing that I realized. I also got a cutting machine on my way home from college from a guy in Facebook Marketplace and started cutting a lot of stones. They'll eventually find their way into my work, but I'm balancing making things from the stones and making the stones. And like, yeah. And spending time outside of work, a full-time job can also do things. Which is why it was such a tremendous opportunity to come here and have all this time. So just to run over the top level of what I'm doing here, I make jewelry and containers. It's funny because I thought these are some of the biggest markets worldwide. People even need containers for their jewelry, and some jewelry, like a locket, is a container. So I think I'm going to do pretty well. It was something my dad pointed out to me, like back when I was switching from mechanical engineering to jewelry. He was like, "Oh, jewelry is actually like a multi-billion-dollar industry. You're gonna be all right, son." Some of my hallmark techniques, settings. I like creating novel settings and just setting stones, using rivets, using machining and machine tools, hand engraving, which I'm self-taught, lapidary, cutting cabochon, faceting, and using mineral specimens. So getting into more like the heavier conceptual stuff, I want to start off with inspiration. I grew up in a Lutheran church in Hartford, and I spent a lot of time looking at the windows and the building in there. It's a beautiful space. The tracery, the way that the stonework surrounds the stained glass windows, I'm inexorably attracted to that particularly. And it definitely finds its way in my work. But there's just something about like the amount of care we put into objects that are related to religion that is beautiful, and I like making things with that in mind. So the second image on there is a picture from this comic book called Missile Mouse, which I was reading that like back in elementary school, but the reason I bring it up, I would read it again now. I really want to get the book again. The reason I bring it up is my first exposure to this particular kind of illustration that is like, I would dub it mechanical sci-fi. And there's a lot of other art and artists out there that inspire me in this kind of way. But it's just it's an aesthetic that I really resonate with, like things that are functional but not necessarily literally functional. It looks functional, and that was drawn by Jake Parker. Another one of my big inspirations is Nash Quinn. Unfortunately, not with us anymore, but I got a chance to see him at University of Edinburgh along with Kathy Pinard. And this project that I worked on here would not have been possible without the knowledge that he passed on in that workshop. So I'm very thankful to him for that. Chris Bathgate is, yeah, he's in Baltimore. Chris Bathgate, he's a machinist sculptor, and he's created his own like CNC machine tools slowly and built up an amazing workshop and repertoire of skills that he uses to make these sculptures entirely out of aluminum, wood, and other metals that are entirely precisely machined but have no distinct function. They're beautiful objects, but they don't serve a purpose. They might serve like an imaginary purpose, but even still, it's hard to grasp what that might be. It's just really his techniques of putting everything together, and the occasions where he's actually made a functional object really inspire some of what I do. Another couple people, Tom Ferrero and Laurel Fulton. I don't know if Tom and Laurel know each other directly, but they're both, I'm connected them both through RIT and through my professor, Juan Carlos Caballero Perez. Always love saying his name. Carlos is amazing, and if you see somebody's work, you can kind of tell that they were taught by Carlos, and Tom is a really good example of that. And he just took it to a whole nother level. The level that Tom does, or did, because he turned into a painter. But the level that he took the things that Carlos taught to, it really inspires me. And of course, I always thank my professor Laurel Fulton a whole lot, especially because she taught me to think about secrets, things that only the viewer, only the owner of the piece, something on the back side of the necklace, something on the underside of the container. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. That somebody has to have a really intimate connection with or explore and discover in their time with the piece of jewelry. So when it comes to the concept behind my work, I see a fantasy component and I see a reality component. So the fantasy component is that I want the story of the object to be unclear yet alluring. Mechanisms that are functional yet superfluous beg the question of why. Asemic writing, which is writing that doesn't mean anything inherently, also pushes a why, but also a who. As I work, I start developing a story in my head for the purpose and origin of my creation. The narrative changes frequently in my mind. There is no set story. By posing these questions, I am nudging the audience towards creating their own narrative for the piece and the world it lives in. And that the picture in the bottom is breech lock container posed in a snowdrift as if it was just discovered there. I think that's kind of the starting point for a lot of my pieces. They've been discovered, and somebody's trying to figure out what on earth it is. So in reality, I want my pieces to inspire interaction and wonder. Texture and form draw hands to knobs and handles. Color contrast serves an aesthetic role and conveniently makes individual parts of a complex assembly easier to see and understand. I create an invitation to discover. It brings me great joy to wonder at a fantastic thing that I don't understand and then discover for myself how it works, which is coincidentally the same as Nash. Doing the work is the best part about this. I create problems and solve them. I'm being the kind of engineer that I want to be. And I stand by that because it was a pretty deliberate decision to make that change of career. I want the audience to experience discovery as they grapple with the operation, function, and purpose of my art objects. When I'm making, there's a pretty simple core question in my mind. When I'm designing, when I'm actually making something, it's really a question of how can I achieve this functional requirement, make it look good at the same time, which is just dead simple. And I think that's a lot. I'd say a good amount of people work the same way. You know, you come up as an artist, I kind of come up with my own problem and then put my own to solving it. And it's the process of solving it is just, that's why I keep doing this. All right. So another part of my work that's really important to me are the stones that I use. And Shane hinted this a little bit at the beginning. Most of the stones I use are self-collected from Connecticut. And Shane kind of hinted at the beginning of that story. I thought that all the cool stones came from overseas, which was kind of true for the time because my first exposure to, say, interesting rocks was through these gem sluices at the local state park, or Dinosaur State Park. So it was just like a bag full of gravel and some low grade, but fairly interesting mineral specimens that you would give to a kid and they'd sift through it and wash. And all of these stones did come from overseas. Well, later on in 2020, I miraculously discovered the website MINDAT, which I'm pretty sure it's short for Mineral Database. And this website is an online catalog of historic and active mining and quarrying operations, as well as mineral species observations in those places and elsewhere. So a gold mine for somebody who wants to get out into nature, has so much time in their hands because there's a pandemic, and likes rocks. So my dad and I went around to locations that we deemed accessible, legal, and low risk, and found so many amazing rocks. Although I took home most of them while my dad was just there to hang out and tell me when it was time to go. Since then, I've learned a whole lot more about geology in the state and other places I've been, even finding uncatalogued species and new collecting locations. Early on, when I started rock hounding, which is like the colloquial term for it, but on my business card it says artisanal miner because that's just like, that sounds better, I guess. But early on, I decided, so first of all, you can buy minerals. You can order the craziest fluorite, quartz, chalcopyrite specimen from China for 800 and have it. And it's amazing, but I don't care. And I don't want to do that. I decided not to buy any minerals because I didn't want to waste my money on rocks. And well, I'd waste my money on tools to find rocks. But I don't want to waste my money on rocks directly. And finding something that I find is much more meaningful to me than something that I find. Like I'm doing the actual work and I have the knowledge to find this beautiful thing. I'm not just being concerned. And when I got into jewelry making, I decided to make this hobby part of my practice. And here I am still doing just that, although there are some things to be worked out. So big reasons why I do this. You're probably like, what are those bullet points on the screen? He hasn't really mentioned that yet. But here I go. So collaboration with nature. Geology miraculously provides crystals and aggregates, and we get to choose how to cut and display them. Everybody that trims a mineral specimen just thinks of themselves as a collector, but I think of them as artists as well, because they're taking something that nature's randomly created and applying human aesthetics to it in a controlled manner. I think that makes them an artist. So crystalline forms, I think, are especially beautiful because they take on shiny, light scattering geometric forms that are rarely seen in nature. They have structure and repetition, but also random growth. An interesting thought that occurred to me while I was writing this is that plants and most creatures don't care about crystals. To them, they're just like large hunks of the same substance that can be found in other glamorous rocks. Less glamorous rocks, sorry. Um, Humans and maybe also chimps, according to a recent study. You read that. All right. I have not read it yet. I need to get to that. But I saw that it existed. So we're a part of nature that can perceive the value and beauty in crystals and stones. And I think that's fantastic. Obviously, I have a tremendous bias in that regard. There are a lot of people that agree with me though, so I have that. Another thing about rocks and gemstones and mineral specimens is that they are magic. And not in like a literal, like it's gonna, and no shame to mysticism, but not in like a way that's gonna heal your cancer. But it's in a, when these things form, it's in alignment of very unlikely things. It's a butterfly effect. And I'm not talking about like the scientific idea of crystals and their growth, because that's pretty nailed down. Like they have the chemical structure and scientists can create crystals in a lab and they're perfect. But it's the geologic conditions that they form in is some are pretty normal, but others can just be insane and produce the craziest gemstones in the world, like emeralds in Colombia. They form in a very specific sequence of events and are extremely rare because of it. So that's magic to me. One of the takeaways that I hope that I get from rock hounding, and I hope the viewers and the audience of my work get from my use of them, is a greater connection to the land that we live on. So rock hounding is such a source of joy and pride for me. It got me to care a lot more about living in Connecticut and learn so much more about its history through the lens of mining. Sorry, I got a little off track there. It's a good realization of the value of the land that we live on. And I have some thoughts about how I still have some questions in my mind about how rock hounding can be sustainable. But I think in a limited capacity, it's an amazing way to appreciate resources of the land that we actually live on instead of shipping things from overseas and not seeing the consequences of those actions. It's too easy to ignore human or environmental harm when it's somewhere else and hidden behind layers of it. And I'm doing it myself. At least I'm accountable for for breaking the rocks that I break, for avoiding plants and animals, for reclaiming the location that I'm digging in when I'm done. You know, for not leaving any trash, and for not hurting anybody while doing it, especially myself. And while I'm out there enjoying nature, it's really fun to appreciate and celebrate the unseen. Because I think since I got into this, I've been looking a lot at the ground because that's where the rocks are most of the time. But it's also got me to appreciate looking for small things, looking for a shiny little stone in the rough. I spotted this green dye on the ground today as I was skating through the city. And I don't think that would have been possible without the countless hours I've spent looking for shiny things amongst a massive pile of gray rocks. So that is why I use mineral specimens in my work. And that just about sums up this presentation. So thank you. I would like to extend a big thank you to the Baltimore Jewelry Center, to Mercury, to Shane, to Jay, to Elliot, for having me here, for being amazing hosts, for having an apartment for residents to stay in. That's incredible. And just giving me the time to make the most complex piece of art that I've ever made. So thank you very much. Yeah. Now you guys do the talking. Please. Yeah, of course. So this is the piece that I made while I'm here. While I was here. I'm leaving tomorrow. I'm happy to be going back home for the couple of days that I have before I get back there. Yeah. It's kind of underwhelming how small it is, but I guess when you're looking at it like this close the entire time, then, yeah. The really fun thing about it that I like is that you get it there. Just clicks in place. So it's a push and then a slight clockwise turn to open it up. You want to take a look at something?
Hey, Mark, I'm remembering that Jay asked us to tell her that it was a gallery. Do you mind going to do that, or do you want to take over? Either one.
What would you put in there?
What would you put in it?
That's a great question. I'd probably put like herbs of some kind, something medicinal or something like that. Push.
You broke it?
I don't want to break it.
No,
No,
no, you're not gonna break it.
Yeah, nice.
Anyone else want to try?
That's so cool. You're like, duh.
It's electrifying with Sharpies and resist.
You gotta push this.
Clockwise?
Well, yeah, clockwise.
A key thing about this is that I left that slot in the lid so you can see the mechanism and get a little bit of an idea for how it works.
So true.
Mm.
And look at this detail.
The plate there, yeah.
Wait.
I feel like you gotta.
Oh, when did the stone do?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
I think
I'm scared.
I think Nash should be. I think Nash should be very proud, and would also encourage you to think about teaching.
Okay.
Since you no longer can.
He's got to come out of hibernation.
No.
You go, that's what
I'm scared.
push to it.
Oh, I did it. Okay. Oh, look at that.
That's the secret part.
I applaud you for discovering.
Thank you. Ah, there we go.
Bottom liquid and like next hidden gemstone. I like it.
This is pretty amazing. This is all cardboard.
That's great.
Cardboard and hot.
Yeah, but still, I mean, it's.
The whole thing.
Yeah, I mean, it really looks like
That
it's
is
not
crazy.
cardboard, right?
Phenomenal cardboard constructor.
No, cardboard constructor. Add that to
Among
the
other
business
things,
card.
exactly.
This.
Just put there, that's the spot.
That's it?
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. First one. Nice.
Hmm.
Perfect. Here you go. Look at that.
Oh my gosh, look at the little spring.
I know.
I had to learn how to make those.
I can't raise the springs.
Yeah, I mean, what gauge wire is that? Like 24, 26?
Whatever Elliot had.
Okay.
for,
Small steel.
That one is similar. It's a counterclockwise turn it over.
That's great.
Something I challenged myself to do with both of these is make them radially symmetrical
Mhm.
and to the lids fit in at every position.
Yeah.
I need to point that out because it's like
Say it one more time, Noah.
the lid, they're radially symmetrical, the lids fit in at every position on there.
Mm-hmm. So it
When
doesn't
when
like.
you're doing everything by hand and you're like filing it to shape, it can be easy to make one way fit, but to make
All
three
that fit,
in
yeah.
tight is a little bit more tricky.
Hmm.
So
So you raise this middle piece.
Kind of is like a plastic forming.
I have a question for you.
Yeah, go ahead.
So do you always plot out your pieces like to the fullest, like to this extent where, you ended up with some variation, but you had it all fully fleshed out? Or do you ever sort of like make things as they go?
Sometimes I make things as I go, but I think generally I have a pretty good idea beforehand. And I think that's something that I could involve myself a little bit more with, making things as I go. Some of my favorite pieces have been things that I just like winged it.
And what's the like difference in like motivation there?
I don't know. Like, I think I just have a lot of time to draw out my ideas. But sometimes I just get in the mood to start experimenting. I think in one of the particular cases I'm thinking of, it's this brooch called Pin the Pines. It's like, it has a little citrine in the center of it. It's 2 cast pieces. It's like the assignment was to just do natural casting, so I kind of just like found some things and like tried it, and then realized the pieces kind of fit together in an interesting way. So I've heard about other metalsmiths and jewelers working with this as well.
I don't always trust you.
Forgetting
You ready? No, okay.
currently a resident artist at Kenner. She just like you just make a bunch of parts and then see how they fit together.
Cool. That's fun.
I gotta do more.
Who was that who encouraged that? It's okay.
The current jeweler at Penland, I'm blanking on her name, but I'm remembering that this is something that she does. It's just.
I mean, Dongi Wu is there, but I don't know.
Any other questions?
So you've got at least one in the
Can we
chat.
talk about the design on the vessel on the left? Container on the left.
Oh yeah, so that's
This guy.
yeah. So this is some of the asemic writing that I was talking about. It kind of looks like an Asian language.
How did you create it?
It's procedurally generated. Manually procedurally generated. I start by drawing lines, just like intersecting in random lines, and in a manner that I think will be all right, but also I try and throw as much randomness into it as my humanity can muster. Because interesting fact, it's more likely that a robot is going to pick 5 heads in a row than a human. But then I go and I just put a constant outline on the rest of it. So it's like part of it is my choice and part of it is the rule.
I want an answer that's more technical.
Oh, like
Do you mean
how
like
did I
how
do
the metal works? So, right, it's electroplating.
That's right here. It's just electroplated copper on silver that I used Sharpie as a resist.
Okay.
So those just draw Sharpie on silver and then
Yeah.
electroplated copper.
Yeah.
A little bit.
And it's faded because I accidentally pickled it.
It's cool though.
It's okay, it links L.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Jan Kiehne, sorry, your mom.
Yes.
She says, thanks for the presentation, Noah. Mary Ravel says, love seeing how that container turned out. And Andy Lowry says, great presentation. It's great to see how engineering has influenced all of your object making. And then Margot said, cool hearing about how you source your stones. Do the origins or growth of a specific mineral influence the design of the setting or capsule?
Oh, absolutely. This is a great example of that. So this stone on the top of there is prehnite, and it looks like a cabochon, but that is actually exactly how I found it.
Oh, wow.
Oh,
Dang.
So prehnite is in that form, it's an aggregate. So that spherical shape or hemispherical shape is radiating tiny little spines of crystals that they're all tightly packed up to each other. And that one I did find exactly like that. The bottom of it was completely flat.
wow.
Because it had intersected with another mineral called anhydrite. Wow. And that's getting a little technical.
Wow.
But the hydrate later dissolved. And this piece, the printout on the top of here, I had to modify slightly to get it to fit in there flat. But they still, they have that form, and it definitely influenced this work directly.
Yeah.
Like taking something, it's the perfect.
Thinking about,
round,
thinking about
wonderful.
where does this want to be as is.
Yeah.
Good question, Margo.
I have another question about your current piece that you just made at the residency. Looking at your drawings again, there are some obvious points of departure. And I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about like what made you depart and like what brought you to the like aesthetic choices that are a bit different.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I guess like some of the most obvious ones, where this one is specifically says original idea, and it has this funny looking umbrella thing that is obviously not there. That was thinking it like kind of a slightly different mechanism is sort of like the operation would be you stick your fingers underneath this and push down with your thumb. But actually in a conversation with Marcy, I realized that I wanted to make it more encourage the owner's interaction more. So having it just be a pinch on a knob makes it so that you kind of have to hold it in your hand. You can kind of like on a grippy surface, you can kind of use the friction of it. But if this were on like glass or something, it would just spin. You know, so I was kind of trying to encourage people to handle it.
Cool.
And that's another point is after you guys have touched this, the natural patina has worn off the edge, and that's entirely intentional. There's no patina on here. There's no patina on here either. And I hope I wish it had turned this beautiful color, but this has been around in existence a lot longer than this piece has.
Yeah.
Eventually it will be.
Well,
Yeah.
Cool.
Are there any other specific departures you were interested in me talking about?
Not in particular. I don't know, you just have such an incredible like aesthetic language that you've built for yourself. Yeah, I just wanted to hear. But yeah, that's
I would say I think a lot of that comes from like the SMLs. That just, you know, it's hard to pinpoint exactly where that kind of thing comes from, but I think it's pretty positive interaction. This one, the design of this one was actually more influenced by the actual technique, just seeing what this shape looked like, and then playing around with a lid that was good with it.
You're definitely not the first resident who's really influenced by something on a screen from their youth that is very, very like
Something from a book.
elaborate. I'm sorry, not a book. Excuse me, I'm sorry. But something that, you know, is just like an alternate world that's like rendered really complex. I think it's really interesting. I liked what you said about just not having really thought so much about Connecticut as a place with rocks. And I don't think I really thought about many places like that. But I think a lot about how we tend culturally to think about some places as being more important than others. Like I remember when I said something about where are you from? You're like, Connecticut's an okay place. And I was like, I don't think about places as like good or bad. I think that's such an interesting thing that we do.
Yeah.
We put value on places. And I think when you just spend time, like you said, like looking down and like being in the place that you're in, it's like, oh my gosh, there's so much here. And you said something about like once you started looking, it made you look different places. And I often think about where our vision lands, especially these days, you know, and how like we see so much, but then we see so little because we're so kind of like laser focused because of just technology and just being, I think, consistently overwhelmed in life. But that ability to like look up and look down, and especially look down, and how that really grounds us, I think is really compelling, and thinking about how you're utilizing that to a marriage with something really complex and handmade. And then this thing that nature grew for you as you built this. It's really cool.
Did you have any moments of stone discovery while here in Baltimore?
Yeah, I did. I went to this abandoned serpentine quarry over on Jones Falls, Trail, like off of Jones Falls Road up near where Mount Kathy lives. It's I don't know how far north of here it is, but
It's not very far.
you'll probably be able to find it. You can go there and find serpentine minerals, which are like a metamorphosed igneous rock. So really stinking.
That's cool. I did wonder, there's another comment and question, but I did wonder when you were talking about being a rock hound, are there people or are there practices where people just go and try to like find but not take? Or is the process of finding one where the stone is then just rendered as, or the mineral is just rendered that you kind of might as well take it because it would be washed away? Does that kind of make sense?
Catch and release versus.
Well, exactly. Like, I think about the way we go and watch animals in nature versus that. Yeah.
There was a section that I did not include in my presentation today. Questions that I had yet to answer. And one of them was how sustainable is rock hounding, and like, is this something that I should be doing? Is it sustainable? How can I make it more sustainable? Like, it's just something that I grapple with. I think like I'd like to believe that the scale at which I'm doing it and the impact and the choices that I make while I'm out there are of such a scale that I'm not doing any damage. And a lot of the things that I'm finding you're right, they probably would just erode away or get covered by other rubble and never be perceived by humans. So I think my point about humans being able to appreciate these things was pointed in that regard. But I think that with regards to sustainability, there would be room for maybe going out and taking pictures, like some kind of representation, but then also it's like, that's the representation, it's not the actual thing. Right. And then they're buried.
Right. And again, I think
if you uncover it, you've changed it by uncovering it and then taking the picture, you just leave it there.
Right. Yeah, it does it's such the kind of existential question of what we dig up, what we see, and like that piece that you referenced, like that like evidence that primates are like, oh, this shiny thing, wait. It could have been like the portal to everything. Mary says that she loves the finish you chose for the top of the push and twist capsule. And then Marga had one more question. Why are they called capsules and not vessels or containers?
Probably because of Dragon Ball.
Nice.
Do you guys know what I'm talking about?
I don't. I know what Dragon Ball is. I haven't seen it.
There's this capsule corporation in the manga Dragon Ball.
Marga says nice. With a really cute little emoji that I've never seen before. Like,
They have like these little tiny containers like this that you push a button, throw it, and it turns into like a house.
Yeah.
And I think there isn't a direct connection between that concept and this. But
it's kind of like
the terminology.
Yeah. It's got a.
The terminology was in my mind.
Yeah. It's got an element of like a POW. Right?
Yeah.
Like
the capsule, and something that I think about, like the amount of work that you put into the way that these open. A container is something that something goes into, whereas these feel like capsule in the sense that they are something that something comes out of. I feel.
That's a good point. Distinction is like, I guess when you talk about the drugs come in a capsule. Pharmaceutical drugs. And it's
your mom's.
medicine insert from the inside of the capsule.
But then there's also time capsules.
Yeah,
where
that's kind of what I was thinking.
Put things in there that they want people to look at in the future and think about. And
it's kind of an interesting, less used phrase for these kinds of things. So.
The purpose of the capsule is left up in the air. It's not meant to contain any specific thing. You put whatever you want, and it'll be your capsule.
Cool. All right. Anything else?
I have one last question for you.
Yes, I just forgot.
So one of the things that I think was really impressive about getting to watch you as a resident was how like thoughtfully you spent your time like prototyping and doing really intensive research. And I feel like that time like led to a really phenomenal continuation of the work that you had in our graduate show last year. So I think my question for you is, did you know that programs like our graduate exhibition, which is currently accepting applications, and our residency program are funded entirely by donations?
I did. Thank you. Thank you very much.
And we just dropped the link in for those who are on the call and for those future people.
BaltimoreJewelryCenter.org/donate. That's BaltimoreJewelryCenter.org/.
She's good.
Very good,
Thanks,
very
Jay.
good. Yay, that's good.
Bravo, Noah. Thanks for coming. Thanks for coming, everyone, in person and online. Good job.